Notes on Vocation by Father J.M. Perrin. Why the vow of chastity? We have more than once met friends, both priests and laymen, who were astonished at our attachment to the vow of chastity that makes our dedication complete. So it is useful to discuss this question. Basically, it is not a question of professing faith in the Church's definition. Virginity is better in itself, but the essential is to know what Christ asks of each of his followers, to know what is the best for me. If you are to become who you ought to be in the Church, laywomen ardently in love with Christ, and missionaries of his love among the people, the vow of chastity is necessary, for it consecrates the resources of your heart and the energies of your being to him alone. You must understand clearly that although often presented negatively as the renunciation of marriage, this vow has a supremely positive meaning. It must be an effective consecration, a real application of everything which can no longer be fulfilled for you on the human plane, so that Christ and his kingdom become for you husband and family, of its very nature this vow must lead you to a higher love. Otherwise, it would be a disfigurement. St. Paul declares, a husband is the head of his wife. 1 Corinthians 11:3. Does this mean that because of your celibacy, you will consider yourselves beheaded, incomplete? God forbid. But in that case, Christ must be your head. And this means rising above and outstripping a woman's narrowness and weakness. It means a love that is wholly given and yet dependent. Thus, far from being incomplete, you will become more like Christ. All this is good and holy. It is a far cry from being an old maid to the Christian virgin, the spouse of Christ. You must pay all the more attention to this because the world is watching you. It will judge Christian chastity by your example. Perhaps the objection will be made that such a vow separates you from others and is thus incomplete with the demands of the lay apostolate, which requires you to remain one among others. People may say that you are essentially different and separated in the most important matter. A particular form of chastity can cause separation and narrowness. We shall return to this when we discuss the nature of Christian chastity for you. It is enough to say that the basis of the apostolate is not contact, but influence. Nearness alone is not enough. Above all, we need to be spiritually rich and share our wealth. The question of separation, although important, is not the most important. The tradition of the Church and the example of the saints protest against such ideas. Was Father de Foucauld separated from the Torridge? Yet he lived in a country that considers celibacy to be despicable weakness and a form of impotence. Celibacy lived for God is a special vocation, yes, but it is one of the joys and glories of Christ and His church. All are not bound to follow the counsel, but all are expected to appreciate its beauty and esteem its excellence because of Christ who gave it to us.